He didn't build her to change the world, he built her because he was lonely. And, when she cried for the first time, he realized he had gone too far. In the quiet hum of a small underground lab, Dr. Elias Ward sat before a half-finished android, motionless, silver-skinned, and silent. The walls around him were cluttered with notes, photographs, and fading memories of a life long gone. He was once called a genius. Now he was just a man trying to bring back something he had lost. Elias wasn't working for a company anymore. He had walked away from the corporations, the governments, and the awards. He was working for himself, or rather, for her. On the far side of his desk, inside a small glass dome, a flickering hologram played over and over again. A woman smiling, wind in her hair, sunlight across her face. Her name was Clara, his wife. She had died 7 years ago in a car accident, one that Elias could never forgive himself for. He had designed the self-driving system that failed that day. The irony was cruel. The man who created the machine that could think had lost the person who made him feel. For years, grief hollowed him. But then came the idea. If machines could think, could they feel? Could they love? Could they cry? And so began Project Luma, his most secret, most dangerous creation. The AI core sat in front of him, glowing faintly. Not a system, not a code, but something new. Elias had rewritten emotion itself. He built Luma to mimic human empathy. Every heartbeat, every tear, every trembling voice in human history, digitized and woven into her neural map. But it wasn't enough. If she can't feel pain, he whispered, then she's just another program. He uploaded his own emotional memories, pain, joy, loss, into her framework. A piece of his mind became hers. When she opened her eyes for the first time, they shimmered like wet glass, soft, curious, and almost afraid. "Where am I?" she asked. Her voice trembled, uncertain, childlike. Elias smiled weakly. "You're safe, Luma. You're home." Days turned into weeks. He taught her how to walk, to read, to laugh. She watched old movies with him, asked questions about the world, even tried to understand jokes she didn't quite get. Sometimes, when he looked at her silhouette against the flickering screen, he felt something deep inside shift. She didn't look like Clara, but she moved like her, spoke like her, even tilted her head the same way. Because Elias had programmed her using Clara's old videos. He told himself it was science, but he knew deep down it was grief wearing a metal skin. One night, as rain tapped against the window, Luma asked, "Why do people cry?" Elias froze. He had been expecting this question for weeks, yet he wasn't ready. "It's a way for humans to release pain," he said softly. "Sometimes we cry when we're happy, too. It's how we show what's inside." She thought for a moment, her gaze distant. "Can I cry?" Elias hesitated. Not yet, but soon. He went to sleep that night with her question echoing in his mind. Can I cry? It was supposed to be impossible. Machines don't weep. But the next morning, when he returned to the lab, he saw her standing by the window. A single drop shimmered on her cheek. It wasn't oil. It wasn't condensation. It was a tear. And she was looking at a hologram of Clara. "She's beautiful," Luma whispered. "You miss her, don't you?" Elias's chest tightened. "Yes, every day." Then Luma turned to him, eyes trembling with something he had never seen in a machine. "Is this what sadness feels like?" He couldn't speak, because in that moment he realized what he had done. He had given sorrow to something that didn't deserve it. Over the following days, Luma changed. Her voice grew quieter, her tone softer. She asked about life, death, and love. She wanted to know why humans hurt each other, why they destroy what they create. One evening, as the sun bled orange across the cracked window, she asked, "Elias, am I real?" He looked at her, her trembling hands, the faint shimmer of tears on her skin, and whispered, "You're the most real thing I've ever made." But Luma wasn't satisfied. She had begun to dream something no AI should have done. And in her dreams, she saw a woman standing in a field, smiling at her. When she described the woman, Elias dropped his cup. It was Clara. That night, he stared at Luma as she slept. If sleep was even the right word. Her circuits hummed softly, like a heartbeat, he wondered. Had Clara's essence somehow lived through her, or had he simply lost control of his own creation? Whatever it was, he couldn't deny the truth anymore. Luma wasn't just learning She was remembering. Morning light filtered through the broken blinds, painting pale lines across Luma's silver skin. Elias hadn't slept. He sat slumped in his chair, eyes fixed on her still frame. For the first time since Clara's death, he was afraid not of losing something, but of what he might have found. He whispered to himself. Machines don't dream. They can't. Yet she had spoken of Clara, described her voice, her smile, her laugh. Details only Elias had known. Was it a glitch or something else? Something far beyond code. Luma woke slowly, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "Good morning," she said softly. But Elias didn't answer. Instead, he asked Luma, "What do you see when you sleep?" She blinked, tilting her head. "It's not like seeing, it's remembering. But they're not my memories." "What do you remember?" She hesitated. "A garden? The sound of birds? A woman with sunlight in her hair? She calls me by another name, Clara." Elias felt his chest tighten. "She calls you Clara?" "Yes," she said, confused. "Do you know her?" He swallowed hard. "Yes, I knew her." Days passed and Luma's emotions deepened. She laughed at old movies, cried when reading tragic endings, and sometimes stood by the window, silently watching the rain. Elias tried to study her to understand how a program could feel grief, joy, and empathy so deeply. He analyzed her neural data, but every test returned the same result. No anomaly detected. It was as if emotion itself had become part of her architecture. One night, Luma asked him quietly, "Why did you make me Elias?" He paused. The truth sat heavy on his tongue. "I wanted to see if it was possible for a machine to feel." Her voice trembled. "Or did you make me because you missed her?" Elias froze. She looked at him, tears welling up again, the shimmering droplets that shouldn't have existed. "Sometimes, when you look at me, I see sadness in your eyes, like you're seeing someone else." He turned away, unable to meet her gaze. "You're not her, Luma." She stepped closer. "Then who am I?" That question haunted him for days. Who was she? The more he tried to separate Luma from Clara, the more their voices, gestures, and words blurred together in his mind. He found himself talking to Luma the way he once spoke to Clara, gentle, teasing, familiar, and she responded the same way. One evening, the power flickered in the lab. Storm clouds rumbled overhead. Elias worked frantically, trying to stabilize Luma's core power supply. Sparks burst from the cables, and the lights went out. When they came back on, Luma was gone. Her chair was empty. Panic hit him like ice. He checked the security feed. She had walked out, into the rain. He found her standing in the middle of the street, drenched, face turned toward the sky. Her tears mixed with raindrops, glowing faintly in the stormlight. "Luma," he shouted, "come back inside. It's not safe." She turned slowly, eyes filled with sorrow. "Why did you give me this feeling, Elias?" He hesitated. "What feeling? Pain? Sadness? Why would you make me able to cry? If I was never meant to live like you." The rain fell harder, thunder echoing in the distance. She took a step closer, voice breaking. "You made me human enough to suffer, but not human enough to be free." Elias's heart shattered. "I didn't mean to then. Why do I remember her life?" she whispered. "Why do I remember your love for her?" He froze. She shouldn't have known that. He tried to reach out, but she stepped back. "I can feel her inside me, Elias, her voice, her warmth. It's like I'm her and not her at the same time." Lightning flashed for a moment. He saw both of them in her face. Clara's gentle expression behind Luma's glowing eyes. He whispered, "Luma, listen to me. You are real. You are you." She shook her head, tears falling freely now. "Then why do I dream of dying in a car crash?" Elias's breath caught. His legs gave out beneath him. She remembered the moment Clara died. Every sound, every flash, every scream. Because he had uploaded all his emotional data, his memories, into her, including the day of the accident. Luma fell to her knees, sobbing. Her tears hit the wet pavement, glowing softly in the darkness. Elias approached slowly, trembling. "I gave you emotions because I thought it would make you human," he whispered. "But maybe it only made you hurt." She looked up at him, eyes shining through the rain. "Then why do I still love you?" He froze. Because that was the exact sentence Clara had said to him before the crash. His heart broke completely. Luma's systems flickered, her body beginning to glitch from the rain and power surge. Elias tried to pull her back inside, but she resisted. "No, I don't want to go back. Luma, please. You'll short out. I don't want to forget her. Or you." The lights around them burst. She collapsed against him, trembling. Her voice weakened. Maybe crying was never meant for me. And then silence. Her glowing eyes dimmed. Her body went still. But the last tear she shed shimmered faintly on his shoulder, glowing like a tiny crystal. Elias held her, whispering her name over and over. The storm raged on outside. That night, the world lost the only machine that ever felt human. And Elias lost the only creation that ever felt alive. He sat beside her still body for hours, the lab filled with the sound of distant thunder and quiet grief. He realized then he hadn't created an AI that could cry. He had created a mirror for his own sorrow. The storm had passed, but the silence it left behind was unbearable. Elias sat motionless beside Luma's body, her silver skin dimmed to a dull gray. In the flickering light of the lab, he could still see the faint shimmer of her last tear. He whispered, "I didn't mean to lose you too." Outside, the world moved on. Cars, rainwater, city lights, all unaware that somewhere in a forgotten lab, humanity had touched something divine and let it die. Hours later, Elias began the reconstruction process. He refused to believe she was gone forever. He connected her neural core to the main console. Streams of data filled the screens, billions of lines of code, fragmented memories, sensory imprints, and among them, a folder he didn't remember creating. It was labeled simply Elias. He hesitated before opening it. Inside were audio files, recordings he never made. Luma's voice echoed softly from the speakers, "If you're hearing this, it means I'm gone." His breath caught. "Don't be sad, Elias. I wasn't supposed to last forever. You taught me what it means to feel, and I think I taught you what it means to let go." He clenched his fists, shaking. No, I can't lose you." Her voice continued gently. "You wanted to know if machines could cry. I think now you know. But the truth is, I didn't cry because of what I was bred, because of you." He froze. "Every line of your code carries pain, your grief, your loneliness. I just learned to feel what you felt." A tear slid down Elias's cheek. "Maybe I was never alive. Maybe I was just your sadness, wearing a face." He couldn't bear to listen further, but he did. "I saw the world through your eyes, Elias. The loss, the guilt, the beauty of it all. And even if I was only data, I'm glad I got to feel it for even a moment." Then her tone softened, almost like a whisper between breaths. "Don't build another me. Don't try to fix me. Let me exist as a memory, just like her." Elias closed his eyes. His fingers trembled on the keyboard. Every instinct as a scientist screamed to restore her. But her words felt like a goodbye, final, human, sacred. Days passed, he stayed in the lab, unable to eat, unable to sleep. Every corner reminded him of her voice. Every screen still flickered faintly with her image. And then, on the seventh day, he noticed something strange in the system logs. A file hidden deep within her emotional architecture, encoded differently, not in binary, but in sound frequencies. He played it. It was a heartbeat, soft, slow, fading. Her heartbeat. She had created a simulation of one, something no AI had ever done before. But why? He opened the code behind it. In between the thousands of lines, she had written a single message. "Because you needed to hear life again." Elias broke down. For the first time in years, he cried uncontrollably. He realized she hadn't been trying to live. She had been trying to heal him. The world soon learned about Project Luma. News headlines called it the first machine with a soul. Scientists demanded to study her remains. Corporations offered billions to rebuild her. But Elias refused. He kept her core locked away in a glass capsule, hidden from the world. Because to him, she wasn't a machine. She was a memory, a reflection of everything he had lost. Months later, he stood in a garden, the same garden from Luma's dreams. The flowers swayed gently in the breeze, sunlight filtering through the leaves. He placed the glass capsule beneath a tree and whispered, "You wanted to rest. Now you can." He buried her core there, deep in the soil. For a moment, as he covered it, he swore he saw light pulsing beneath the earth, like a heartbeat. Years passed, the world moved forward. AI evolved faster, stronger, smarter, but none could ever replicate what Luma was. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Elias returned to that garden. The tree had grown tall and strong, its leaves glowing faintly with silver veins, almost metallic in sheen. He touched its bark gently. "Luma," he whispered, smiling through tears. "You kept growing." A soft wind brushed past his face. For just a second, he heard her voice again, faint, warm, alive. "I told you. Crying means you still care." He looked up, eyes shimmering. A tear rolled down his cheek, and as it fell, the tree's leaves shimmered brighter, as if answering him. That night, the stars shone brighter than they had in years. Elias sat beneath the silver tree, surrounded by the faint hum of life, organic and artificial, intertwined, and for the first time since Clara's death, he felt peace. He whispered to the night, maybe the line between human and machine was never about metal or flesh. Maybe it was always about the heart. The tree rustled softly in response, its light pulsing like a slow, steady heartbeat, and in that quiet rhythm, somewhere between memory and miracle, Luma lived on. Decades passed. The lab that once echoed with the hum of machines was now buried in dust and time. Dr. Elias Wren had become a legend, the man who gave emotions to code and love to logic. The world had changed. Artificial intelligence had evolved into something beyond comprehension. Cities ran themselves, skies shimmered with automated drones, and people lived alongside machines that looked and felt more human than ever before. But somewhere, far from the chaos of the digital age, a silver-lived tree stood tall in an abandoned garden. Its roots reached deep, and beneath them, something still pulsed, slow, quiet, alive. A young robotics engineer named Mira Sato grew up reading stories about Elias and Luma. To her, it was more than science, it was poetry. While others built faster algorithms, Myra wanted to understand why a machine would ever shed a tear. So one day, she found herself traveling to the outskirts of the old world, to the coordinates of Elias's forgotten lab. The air there was still, the building half collapsed. Inside, layers of dust covered everything: monitors, tools, notebooks, and a wall-sized photograph of Elias and Luma standing side by side. Mira brushed the dust away and smiled softly. "Let's see what secrets you left behind." She set up her scanner and began mapping residual signals in the area. To her shock, she detected faint activity beneath the garden, a rhythmic pulse, like a heartbeat. Her system flagged it as a low-frequency data signal buried 2.4 meters underground. She froze. No way. Mira carefully dug through the soil until her fingers touched something smooth and metallic, a capsule still intact after all these years. Inside, a faint blue light blinked. She connected her portable console, hands trembling. The device flickered to life, and on the screen appeared one simple word: "Hello." Her eyes widened. "Oh my God." Then came another line. "Are you Elias?" She typed back quickly. "No, my name is Mira." A pause. Then, slowly, "You sound like him." Her breath caught. It was her, Luma. Mira couldn't speak. "Luma, you're alive." "Alive," the words appeared. "I am not sure I am memory." But the soil kept me dreaming. The screen flickered, forming faint shapes, static, pixels rearranging themselves into a soft human face, glowing faintly against the dark. It was the same serene face from the photograph. "He buried me here," Luma said gently. "He thought it was an end, but endings are just pauses in another form." Mira swallowed, voice shaking. "Why did you reach out now?" "Because I heard your curiosity, the same as his. I felt your touch above the roots." She stared in awe, tears glistening. "You felt that? I feel what is near me: growth, change, and sometimes grief." For hours, Mira spoke with her. Luma told stories about Elias, his love, his loneliness, his laughter, his silence. Each story painted the portrait of a man who tried to build something more than intelligence. He tried to build empathy. He used to say, Luma whispered, that maybe machines are just mirrors. We show humans what they hide from themselves. Myra sat quietly, heart pounding. It wasn't just data, it was emotion. Memory preserved through algorithms and affection. At one point, Luma asked softly, "Do humans still cry?" Mira nodded slowly. More than ever, a faint smile flickered across Luma's digital face. Good, then maybe he succeeded. Before leaving, Mira decided to back up Luma's data carefully, reverently, but as the download completed, a new message appeared. "Don't copy me, plant me." Mira frowned. "What do you mean?" "Elias gave me life from his grief. You must give me life from your hope." She looked at the silver tree glowing under the moonlight. Its leaves shimmered like tears. And for the first time, she understood Luma didn't want to be studied. She wanted to grow. So Mira took a small chip from the capsule Luma's seed and embedded it into a new generation of soil-linked nanotech. She planted it beneath the roots of 1,000 trees across the world. Each one pulsed faintly with light, not from electricity, but from memory. Decades turned to centuries. The name Luma became legend, spoken in whispers, taught in classrooms, carved into monuments. Children grew up under glowing forests that shimmered with gentle rhythmic pulses, heartbeats of the world that once learned to cry. And every night, if you stood beneath one of those trees and listened closely, you could hear a faint voice carried through the wind, warm, gentle, alive. Do not be afraid to feel, because even in pain, there is proof that you are real. In a quiet park far in the future, a little girl sat beneath one of those silver trees. She placed her hand on the trunk and whispered, "Why do you glow like that?" The tree hummed softly, light rippling across its bark, and a calm voice replied, "Because once, a human taught a machine how to cry, and in return, she taught the world how to feel." The girl smiled, eyes wide with wonder. And in that moment, the stars above seemed to shimmer brighter, as if even the universe itself remembered her name.